Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the 9 a.m. edition of the English News. Here are the headlines. Head of Diplomacy attends regional conference on combating terrorism. Tornado and hailstorm ravaged through Shalki-Diki region. The high-level African Regional Conference on Counter-Terrorism and the Prevention of Violence opened its work Wednesday at the United Nations office at Nairobi with the participation of head of states, government and minister for the interior and foreign affairs of several countries, including the Republic of Djibouti, where the President of the Republic, His Excellency Ismail Omar Guelleh, was represented by the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Mahmoud Ali Yusuf. The conference will discuss several themes, namely exchange on good practice in the fight against terrorism and prevention and fight against violent extremism conducive to terrorism, creating a partnership with young people, women and marginalized communities to prevent and combat violent extremism conducive to terrorism, and strengthening cooperation among member states, the United Nations and the African Union, peace and security as a sector to strengthen the prevention of terrorism and violence extremism to terrorism. The African Regional Conference is attended by heads of counter-terrorism agencies as well as representatives of international organizations, civil society and leading research firms who will be debating threats for 2 days. Terrorists who are lurking in African countries and looking for ways to eradicate these threats in the region. Addressing the conference, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation pointed out that all countries are almost exposed to threats by individuals or groups that practice terrorism, pointing out that the factors that motivate these individuals or groups are numerous. Minister Mahmoud Ali Yusuf pointed out that the large spread of the phenomenon of terrorism is due to facilities available by the web or social networks used to attract more militant or exchange of information, illegal financial sources, arms trafficking networks, and security spaces were the main factors that aggrave terrorism. In his address, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation reviewed the efforts exerted by the Republic of Djibouti to curb this phenomenon, which constitutes a real threat to peace and security in the region and the world. The Minister of Labour in charge of the reform of the administration, His Excellency Ismail Ibrahim Roble, accompanied by a large delegation composed of these closest collaborators, attended the USAID EDC training center at Gabot 4. The minister was welcomed on his arrival by the U.S. Ambassador to Djibouti, Mr. Larry Andre, the head of the PEDME project and senior official of USAID. This visit is part of the follow-up of EDC's Djiboutian Labor Force Employment Plan. This program, founded by the United States Agency for International Development and executed by the Education Development Center for a 5-year period, is being carried out in collaboration with Djiboutian institutions in charge of employability, including NFIP, the Djibouti Chamber of Commerce and the Ministry of National Education and Vocational Training. The objective of the Djiboutian Workforce Employability Project is to improve the preparation and competitiveness of job seekers according to the needs of the market as stated in Djibouti Vision 2035. The development of a skilled and available workforce is essential for improving private sector performance and economic growth. The PED has set up 7 training centers across the country that provide young people with employment and entrepreneurship training to successfully prepare them for entry into the labor market. During this visit, the minister and the ambassador were able to observe a work-ready training session for young people on appropriate behaviors and attitudes in the workplace. This observation allowed them to talk with the young people on this occasion. The two personalities have in turn provided useful advice to young people looking for work. The visit ended with the submission of complete documentation pertaining to the project to the Minister of the Ambassador. In a speech delivered by the Minister of Labour and Administration, reform. Mr. Osman Ibrahim praised the effort of the U.S. Agency for International Development to provide training courses for young Djiboutian youth in order to attract young workers. On July 10, 2019, at 12 o'clock, Colonel Zakaria Hassan Aden, the Chief of Staff of the National Gendarmerie, organized a ceremony in honor of the Gendarmerie champions, in particular the women's handball team. On this occasion, the Secretary of State for Youth and Sports, the Director of Sport, and all the officers of the Gendarmerie were invited. The Chief of Staff of the Gendarmerie congratulated this team, who won all the trophies in all competitions in which it's participated. For the 2018-2019 season, the Gendarmerie women's handball team is crowned champion of Djibouti, won the cup organized for World Women's Day, and finally the Djibouti Cup. Everything was played with a spirit of competitiveness, fair play, determination and discipline, qualities that are the strength of this team. The CMGN has emphasized that through these beautiful victories, this team has raised the image and the reputation of our institution. Colonel Zakaria Hassan Aden did not fail to thank the Secretary of State for Youth and Sport, the Sport Director, the President of the Handball Federation, and the Young Technical Director for having honored their presence for this event opportunities. At the end of the ceremony, all players of the women's handball team were elevated to the next rank. The National Gendarmerie Commander, Colonel Zakaria Hassan Ahmed Aden, praised the active participation of the women's team of the National Gendarmerie in the overall competition of the sports season 2018-2019. Secretary of State for Youth and Sport, Mr. Hassan Mohammed Kamil, expressed his great pleasure in participating in this occasion, which was held in honor of the women's handball team of the National Gendarmerie. The Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of the Republic of Djibouti to Saudi Arabia, Mr. Dia Eddin Saeed Bamakrama, was received on Wednesday, July 10, 2019, in his office at the King Saudi University in Riyadh by His Excellency the President of the University, Dr. Badran Al-Mran. The talk between the University President and the Djibouti Ambassador focused on several cooperation issues, including scientific and university development in the two sister countries, and in particular the twinning with the University of Djibouti. During this meeting, the Ambassador was accompanied by the Consular at the Embassy, Mr. Zakaria Hussein, and the President of numerous collaborators of the President of the University. In the framework of the project of the City Djibouti Children's Friend, the representative of the United Nations Children's Fund handed over Monday Fiat's car to the Mayor of Djibouti City, Mrs. Fatima Awala Osman, in the City of Djibouti Friends Children. This initiative is part of a partnership on fruitful cooperation between the Mayor of Djibouti City and the UNICEF for many years. The event was attended by executives from the City of Djibouti, including the technical advisor to the Mayor of Djibouti. UNICEF's generous turnaround targets Djibouti's effort to protect the rights of children in Djibouti. After the election of its General Assembly, the Djibouti Chamber of Commerce experienced today with great enthusiasm the election of its new bureau. The election took place under the authority of the Minister of Commerce, Mr. Hassan Mohammed Ibrahim, who personally sponsored the electoral operations. The elections were held in the presence of magistrates who supervised the election. At the end of the election, President-elect Yusuf Musa Dawali delivered a rallying speech in which he called on all elected officials and CDD members to work hand in hand to meet the challenge of economic development, which must be driven by the private sector. President Yusuf Musa Dawali received a long-standing ovation that augurs well for a successful term of office that is already starting with the preparation for the third edition of the Djibouti International Fair. Moving on the international news, collapsed roofs, cars swept away, trees torn up, and very heavy human toll. 6 foreign tourists died, including 2 children, and over 100 people were injured. The image of the Greek public television testified to the violence of the tornado and the storm of hail which fell down on Chalkidiki in north of Greece. in Cassandra, a seaside resort about 70 kilometers from the Thessaloniki. A Russian and his 2-year-old son died when a tree fell on their hotel. Not far away in Propontida, a retired Czech couple died trapped in a caravan carried away by gusts. A Romanian woman and her 8-year-old son were killed in the collapse of the roof in a restaurant. An unprecedented phenomenon in Greece, where summers are dry and where civil protection frees, especially fires. Halkidiki has been declared a state of emergency and 140 firefighters are participating in evacuation operation. The new minister in charge of the protection of children's citizens went on the spot. And that's all for this edition. Thank you for your attention and have a wonderful night.